in the beginning of the book, they talk about how they had this experience where their family had rented a beach house. Honestly, you lost me right there. And I'm not saying that if your family could rent it, like beach houses don't necessarily have to be expensive. It's not about that, but it's just, you know what? I grew up differently. I grew up going to the shore. I'm from Jersey. We didn't say beach, we said shore. So I grew up going to the shore. And going to the shore, we was never in a position to rent anybody's beach house. Let me just, we was never. We stayed at motels if we stayed overnight, and back then we went to Atlantic City. So it's yes, it does stand out to me immediately. The nuances like that, little just those details will kind of stand out to me. Whether I should or shouldn't, I don't know. It just does, and that's the separation for me right there. Do other authors? Okay, I'm not even going to get into that because we're just going to talk about this book. So there was some information here that I think I could have found in um, an internet search in a way, or I don't know. There was information here. I just, I just, I guess I couldn't get past the author, and I'll be honest, I just couldn't get past it. I'm gonna just call it what it is, and therefore I struggled to get through the rest of the book. Um, yeah, I went to the author's website, and I just feel like, I don't know. I'm asking for. So, what do you think about gatekeeping? What do you think about people, non-black people, specifically white people, you know, going down this particular path, the path of the Rishas, Ifa, Santeria, and all that sort of stuff. By the way, let me just read you his um, little about the author section. A spiritual artist who has dedicated his life to work in the service of the great mother goddess Yemaya. Raven Morgan is a practitioner of candomblé, New Orleans voodoo, Santeria, and witchcraft. That's where you got me kind of effed up, honestly, right there, because I kind of feel like pick, pick. What are you doing, sir? I mean, he took eclectic to another level. Listen, I'm not mad at this man for oh, something on my too. So I'm not mad. I was eating Asian popcorn when I was out and about. Anyway, I'm not mad at him for having these experiences and wanting to write about it. I just feel like not on Black History Month. Not this Black History Month. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. I just can't do this on Black History Month right now. I really just can't do this right now. So I don't normally. I usually give you a little bit more, but I can't. I can't. And by the way, when I purchased the book, and I didn't really focus on the author, the artist book, I was like, oh yeah, I would love to read this book. So I messed up. I messed up. Um, I would not recommend buying that book. It's not as bad as some of the hoodoo books that are being sold, written by clearly. I know somebody did a deep dive and found out that one of the authors of a hoodoo book that's kind of popular, you can get it on Amazon and things like that, don't even like black people. They don't even like black people. So it's like, what are you doing? But money is to be made. So I don't know. We gotta be careful out here. We have to be careful out here. Um, you said OT. You really do. And I always go back to, and I didn't, well, I did once I purchased the book, but when I was homeschooling my kids, I started my son in the fifth grade, and I got him all the way up to, well, technically 12th grade, but that's a whole other story. He ended up going to a high school for his 12th grade year. He could have really just went to college, but we're not going to talk about that. That's another conversation for another day. My daughter, I homeschooled her for high school. And so she didn't go to high school for like the first semester, but then we did so much moving. I pulled her out when she was still in the ninth grade, like halfway through. After Christmas break, I homeschooled her until she graduated. And by the way, if you ever want to know how that works out, not only did she graduate homeschool, we had a whole ceremony and everything. We were living in South Florida, so the homeschool co-op that I work with, we paid like a fee, and several other homeschoolers. There was a place at the Miami Zoo, and we all got together and had a ceremony there. It was so cool, by the way. After hours. Who's the author of the book? Raven Morgan. Let me show you. Raven Morgan is the author. This is Raven Morgan. Um, yeah. So when I was teaching my kids about when we were homeschooling and we were breaking down on how to conduct a thorough review, um, you would have to obviously know the author. Who is the author? When was the author writing this book? We do a little bit more information on who the author was, especially if they're writing something. I mean, this wasn't like for fiction. This was like historical books, or I should say nonfiction. When we were studying things and breaking things down, and they're going to basically do a book review. You do a book review, but you need to also find out who's the author, what's the time frame, where a little bit of background on where they're from and things like that, because that matters. And I used the internet to do a bit of search on the author of this book, and I am sorry that I paid my money to buy it. It's not like bad. It's just I just can't get past that. I just can't. Not on this here not this month. Maybe in March I can play these games, but in Black History Month in February, I don't think I can do this. He adds in he adds in the LGBTQ community as like there's a section where he's as in the book as it relates to her and like the type of goddess she is, and I'm like, listen, we could explore different things and we should about deities and such, but no, no, no. You were trying to me. I felt like he was trying to take his knowledge, and he's a teacher and he's a leader, priest or what have you. Um, it's giving poser. It's giving I don't know that man, but I wouldn't want to know him because I don't really get down with that. I was checking out your website yesterday. I'm thinking of getting a reading soon from you soon. Oh, good, thank you. You should. This man, he does. Believe it or not, speaking of readings, he offers it very expensive too. Um, no, I'm just no. I can't say more about this book. No, I'm not. No, I'm sorry I purchased it. I can't get that money back. Maybe I could. Can you take books back to the store? I have never done that. Like the book, no, because I did highlight, because I started reading. I did start highlighting things to make notes about. I forgot about that. Maybe I can resell it to someone who would want it. But anyway, he starts like about this book. I have been a devoted child of Yemaya for 35 years. Mm. Yeah, anyone can become a student or devotee of Yemaya and incorporate her into their spiritual practices. This is right after his mentioning about initiation. He's not saying you can be initiated, but anyone can be. I guess, I mean, I agree with that. Anybody, because I'm not initiated into any spiritual system, nor do I desire to be, at least at this time in my life. Um, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. I it, this can happen, but this happens, I think, because there's just, and I know why there's gatekeeping to prevent this from happening, but this meaning the author, and like not just the book, like his whole, that whole thing, his what he offers, because he has a website, he offers services, expensive services. Um, but I understand the purpose of gatekeeping for that and having a closed practice for African-based spiritual systems. Um, for that reason. However, I think that at least here in this country, in Africa, in African, in Africa, as African Americans or as blacks in this country, the problem is the gatekeeping is so crazy that we can't even. I feel like we're being blocked out, and that sucks. I don't think I understand your point on him being a poser. Could you care to elaborate or example, or is it like a vibe? No, I believe he's posing to be this person. He's okay. Man, I don't know if you heard the first. He's a spiritual artist. Got it. He's a practitioner of Candomblé, New Orleans voodoo. That's a ding 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 for me because I find that annoying. Santeria, and witchcraft. Typically, typically, the red. I'm not gonna say what it is. The thing that I notice that's a red flag for me for someone who is presenting themselves as someone in a priest-like role, and he is a Caucasian man, and there's too many things. New Orleans voodoo, candomblé, and then Santeria and witchcraft. Like you would, I guess, those who are truly. I don't have a whole lot of experience with these people, but I do know some. I'm gonna just say that, right? Typically, they are is too gatekeeping them. Yeah, I know, right? They typically they're the master of a skill. Like they know what they know. They know very thorough. If you are a priest in Santeria, if you know whatever he calls himself, okay. But all right, I'll give you Candomblé, but also New Orleans voodoo and witchcraft. They don't always necessarily. I mean, to the person who doesn't realize, those things are very. There's some commonality, but they're separate. So you do it all. That's what I mean by I feel like I don't believe you. I don't believe you, sir, Mr. Raven Morgan. And again, Raven Morgan, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Okay, I think I understand your point. Like stick it to one practice, but he's multiple, and why multiple? And it's like, oh, and witchcraft at the end. I don't know. I'm not get. Yes, the vibes as well. I'm not comfortable with this. That's the best. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with this Caucasian man saying he's a practitioner, and I don't know. It bothers me. It does, and I'm gonna just be honest. It bothers me because it feels like he's trying on different spiritual systems. Like he's jumping to practice. Yeah, he's trying it on to me. It feels like he's trying on this, and then the history behind sir, what are you doing? Like, do you understand the history? That's what I'm thinking. Like, does he not? Maybe he does. Maybe he think it transcends. And then the part in the book where he tried to, I didn't even highlight it because I got so annoyed with that about sexual ambiguity. Because of this affinity, both Yemaya and Olokun, I struggle with how to pronounce these words, have a special place of honor among the LGBTQ devotees who find a welcoming home within this aspect of Yemaya. Many members of this community wish to have children, some adopt to fulfill that need, some engage surrogates, and it goes on and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot more that he goes into it, and it's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to take this? I feel like he's trying, you know what? I'm going to say it like this. A lot of the old school practitioners, especially in hoodoo, that I do know and come across, it's this concept of when now it's like dinging in my head finally. They're trying to make it new age. And when they say new age, this is what they mean. Come on now. Come on now, sir. Surrogates and all that, but okay, whatever. Live your life. I don't recommend that book. I made a mistake buying that book. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it at all. So lesson learned. But I did want to get back to the whole gatekeeping situation. That's really tough because I feel like there's these conversations and we have to have them out loud. But it sucks if you are, I know a lot of people who are breaking away from Christian, who have and are breaking away from Christianity, right? And they would like to do something, specifically black folk here in this country, and they want to do something that does not have a European influence for obvious reasons, right? And they want to get something what they felt like they're getting back, that was lost through the ages. They wanted to feel connected, and I don't see anything wrong with that. So it really sucks that you are in that position, so you don't know because you're so far removed. And then we have these people out here who are saying, oh, well, for $1,000, 500. No, actually, I don't. From the last time I heard, it's no longer like 500. Once upon a time, I remember it was like I heard that. I didn't hear that. I knew it was told to me for 500. But now I believe it's like thousand. It could be thousands to go through initiation, and the whole concept just feels so. I don't know. It feels scammy. And it's like even if the house you belong to, even if the leader, if all of that is legit, it just gives scam. Like also, come on, it feels like predatory almost. And I feel like because we are our ancestors, haven't we suffered enough? Haven't we suffered enough? Shouldn't we just be automatically like given the keys to get in, and we don't have to pay? Like we should get the major discount. I feel like we paid enough. We paid enough. That's really just it kind of it sucks, and it kind of pisses me off because I don't expect everybody to do what I do, believe how I believe, um, at all. But and I understand how important it is for some people who want more structure. They want the sort of the religious aspect of the spirituality that you can get from Christianity, and you can get that in some of these African-based spiritual practices. You can get something similar to that, where there's more structure. So I definitely can understand that, but man, you have to really shop around, so to speak, because there's money involved. And you have to make sure you with someone reputable. But imagine if you don't know that you have this calling. So for me, many years ago, I did have a calling to a specific Orisha, Oshun. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want to invite conversations about, oh, are you really talking about shit? Because you have to be initiated, and who told you? I don't care. Anyway, but I feel like my people have paid enough. We have sacrificed and given enough, and I believe that these Orishas have contacted us individually. I do not think we're lying. Yeah, I hate that scammers have tainted this community and learn the true ways of beliefs. Yeah, it's annoying. I believe that enough is enough and that they have helped us. Also, another interesting point or thing I want to point out as well, kind of to the whole roots thing, because we are most black people here, because of our history, typically do not have only African ancestry, or DNA, I should say, for obvious reasons. Otherwise, I should probably be a lot darker. So obviously, most of us have European ancestry in us, or DNA. So we are a lot more unique in that way. So when I find myself attracted to, I guess, certain, I don't know, how do I want to say this? Because it's not, I don't want to just say Celtic, Welsh, or anything like that, although I guess it could easily classify the things that I do. But I think it's because they my ancestors too. They are. And I have this, listen, a while ago it came to me, that maybe they want to protect me too. Maybe they want to atone for all that, because ancestors are not just your grandmom and your it's the whole line. And maybe they want to protect me too. Maybe it's not like that. In a minute, my door's gonna open, and my daughter's gonna come in. So I'm just heads up. Hey, I'm on the line. You're fine. as I mentioned. Anyway, sorry. Normally I'm in the other part of the house, so anyway, but of course I've completely lost track of what I was saying. But anyway, no, so I believe my ancestors were. Hi, Olivia. I'm trying to get on a buy the video. Buy the video seemed to be in a time lock. Oh, I missed that. Man, these comments go fast. You can't even see. Oh, there we go. Tell her I said hi. Okay, tell her. Oh gosh. But yeah, I believe my ancestors of all sorts are, when you're on an astral plane, does it, I mean, I don't think skin color matters because it's your essence, it's your spirit, right? I'd like to believe that. Um, and since my ancestors always come to me as more like shadowed figures, um, never any particular color, more of feel, like I feel them, their essence, but they don't actually, the form they take or have taken to me when I've gone onto the well, I want to say the ancestral plane, the plane they've allowed me to be on, I should assume, for when I meditate and when I want to make connection, when I seek them out, um, I don't see color. I don't see, because they're no longer that anymore. They're more than that, right? And the interesting thing, I see them almost as a collective. It's like pe- shadow people, but somehow all merged together. That's how I see it in my mind's eye. And when I've had dreams, I've seen them that way. I never see them as people with flesh. Therefore, there's no color. But why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't the ones who I'd like to believe that they want to look out for me too? The ones of European descent, those that came before. Why wouldn't they? I mean, don't they? Do me a solid. I mean, I think they owe me, right? For what happened. So, because 9 times out of 10, the reason I have that European DNA in my body is not probably because of a romantic relationship. So yeah, um, yeah. But yeah, I think it's so we are unique people. So I feel like it's not fair of all the gatekeeping with us. It's not fair. Now, I'm not saying, obviously I charge for services, so I'm not gonna say you shouldn't pay anybody for services because I think that's an exchange of energy. Um, Currency, money has energy to it. Um, I think it's a problem when it's lopsided because I'm hearing people not only paying for initiation, but you have to keep paying and keep giving, and so much. That's a lot of money from my understanding. And is that where do these people get this money from? So it makes me feel like, so if that's the case, only the people who have the money can be initiated, and we understand about the wage disparities in this country, right? So who typically has more money? So then we end up with books like this by this author because, this is in general, obviously, we end up with this. So all this gatekeeping is senseless. I don't know, or maybe it's just everybody's greedy. I don't know. I just feel like everybody's greedy right now. It sounds like I'm all over the place, but this is really how I think. Everybody's just greedy. It's a cash grab. Spirituality is for sale, and that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Um, I recently was talking. I had a conversation with my cousin, and I was talking about how when I started my channel, I don't know if I didn't gear it toward a specific audience other than witches, obviously, or people who consider themselves, I don't know, new age or practitioners, people who are witchy friendly or adjacent, if not out witch themselves. Um, as far as initially, I mean, I assume because I was black, I would more black women specifically would probably watch my channel more just because I am black. Um, but that's not always the case, and I understand that. But I don't make my videos. You guys watch my videos. If you haven't and you're watching me now, watch my videos. I don't necessarily have anything specific to race or culture because I don't think that's really necessary. Um, but when I think the problem is because of the history in this country, everything, when you really think about it, everything is just, if we would just reconcile, do a reckoning in this country, specifically here, if we could just do a thorough reckoning of handling race here, it would make things so much better. I hear people sometimes talk about how, oh, it's not like this in other countries. They're not so uptight about, you know, they don't call it appropriation. They don't see things that way. Black people here are just too uptight. They're too stuck on race and all that sort of stuff. Um, and that may be true, but nobody wants to ever do any logical reasoning on why that is. Um, the difference is, prime example, I love K-pop. Love it. Listen to it all the time. BTS specifically is my favorite. When BTS first debuted, they were basically imitating black folk down to the hair. Like the one, he had his hair like tightly curled to mimic like African hair. Had the sides of his head shaved and had the little parts in. Like they were cosplaying black people essentially. They had like gun sounds in their videos and showed off guns. My daughter and I was just talking about this last night, and the difference is they didn't. Of course, now this is like 10 years ago, by the way, when he did this. Um, the difference is they were younger. One, two. There's just a lack of education to understand. They don't remember. They really didn't even speak English. And also, this is what we are putting out into the world. We're putting out music and imagery to make them think that's okay. That they didn't think they were being racist. They didn't see that as a negative thing. And I actually can understand that because remember, there's no nuance. They're just getting the imagery and like, oh, that looks cool. So they mimic and do the same thing. It's different because South Korea is racist as all hell. They hate us in general, generally speaking. They hate us, right? Someone tried to compare it to, do you notice sometimes there's like this fetish thing with like Japanese culture amongst black people? I've seen this amongst older black people where they'll have their house decorated in all this Japanese um, style. We'll just say that. Even sometimes dress, even the people with names, Tokyo Tony, Asian doll. Like these are names of people who take on. And even the look. Remember Nicki Minaj, Chung Lee, right? The difference. Do you want to know the difference? And you said, wasn't that appropriation the same? We don't hate them. So we're not cosplaying them and we hate them. On the other hand, we got people around the globe imitating us, but they hate us. That's the difference. So it makes it hard with books like this because it feels like I don't I don't know this man's life. I don't know, but it's difficult, It's difficult even in obviously in the spiritual community because it feels like they cosplaying us. It feels like they trying to be us. That's what it feels like. They trying to be like us, but they don't like us. Um, and that's almost in everything from spirituality to music to food culture. Yes, food culture. I don't even want to get into this conversation where people sit up here talking about, well, that's Southern cuisine. Where does Southern cuisine come from? Who, where was Southern cuisine? Who was cooking and making the food in the South? I'm not gonna say nothing else. Anyway, what's been popularized over year after year, there's this wonderful documentary on Netflix that talks about this, by the way, and there's a spiritual component to that as well, little spiritualities and everything. I don't know this. Yeah, I don't know. This book sparked that up in me. Thinking about this sort of stuff all this week has been in my head because my mind is really on this right now. Everything, like I can see everything. Uh, at this point. And it's just, I'm like, we gotta do a reckoning because there's no end to this. Like, I'm gonna die, and no matter, like, my daughter, her daughter, like, there's no stop to this weird, this just hate. But at the same time, admiration is so weird. It's sick. It feels sick. I don't know. Reading this book made me feel bad. So that's why I'm definitely telling you don't get this book. That's what I got from this. Um, and no, because he's a white author and he's writing this book and I dislike it, it means I'm racist. Me as a black person cannot be racist because to be racist means I have some sort of power, some actual power to stop you. Uh, a non-black person. Um, from obtaining something. I don't have any pull. I don't have any power. I can't do that. You could call me biased. You can call me even prejudiced. That would be the correct term. We got a lot of young people walking around using things incorrectly. Irritates me to no end because it's like don't do that. I've actually heard younger black people talking and they were like, man, that's racist to another black person. I was like about them telling them they are. I'm like, we gotta do better. We gotta do better. I saw something pop up in one of you saying that they want to be like us, but they hate us. Reminded me of my aunt dressing up as a witch last Halloween, but yet she wants. Wait, your mom dressed up. Wait, let me get back to that. It goes so fast. To read the Bible, coloring biblical adult coloring books. Oh my God. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's like, why do you dress? Yeah, I mean, it is a weird. That's interesting because for people who oh yeah, and that's it. That's a whole other thing. People who don't like, okay, the religious folk, we'll just say that. Um, but and they'll, I don't know, the things they entertain. Thank you for using the correct meaning of racism. I too see people interchanging racism with prejudice. Right is annoying as all what. But I don't have that kind of power, and it irritates the heck out of me. I don't have that. To be racist means I have power. I was like the audacity and hypocrisy. Yeah, I don't have that kind of power. But yeah, people who go to like horror movies and stuff like that. Once upon a time, I was raised. I wouldn't say I was raised Christian. My mom became born again during my childhood. She went through a spirited time. She wasn't, she was going heavy in the church. I think I talked about this. Then she stopped, and then I continued to go with my aunt, and I even went by myself. But yeah, and then I want to say I grew out of it. It was, why I grew out of it? Because I have a very curious mind. My whole family, the one thing they knew about me from a kid, they used to always joke about this, is I would always ask why. I don't care what you're doing, what it is, what we're talking about. As a little kid, I'm like, well, why? And then you tell me the answer. Well, why is that? Well, why? I always want to know why. Like, you got to give me a deep. I didn't like surface level answers. Like, I wanted a deeper understanding of something. I didn't have that language at the time because I was a little kid, but I always want to know why. So that never stopped. So I just wanted to know, well, why? Well, why did he kill? So his son had died for his sins. Why did he just kill the devil? I never asked, like, as a little kid. I was like, why did he just kill the devil? Wouldn't that made it easier? So why? And by the way, people I was asking didn't have answers to these questions, and they was getting annoyed with me asking these questions. They was nice. They were sweet to me, but they were. I could tell I was getting on their nerves asking these questions because they didn't want to ask those questions, and they didn't have to be answers for those questions. In short, um, and the thing I was told is all will be revealed, when you go to heaven, or God is God's plan. We're not to question God's plan, that sort of thing. That's yeah. So that was the answer. So I still ask why now. But yeah, it's weird to me that people like that will engage in spiritual practice, like, or not even spiritual, engage in things that are the antithesis of what they believe. So you like to watch murders occur because, like in horror movies, somebody's gonna die, right? That's a sin. Like, take everything out of the equation. The nudity that's always in a horror movie, like the sex scenes is almost always in a horror movie, right? Murder, like, is that still not bad? Y'all worrying about everything else. So like, murder is bad. Um, And it's weird in this country, like the people who are Christian are Christian, but they talk about guns and um, like, aren't shouldn't you be more like the New Testament with the Jesus? He's supposed to be more of a pacifist. I thought, or I don't know. Yeah, y'all giving Old Testament energy, but didn't they say they don't do the Old Testament no more? Wasn't the Old Testament more the Jewish thing? I don't know. Like I offered her a book that wasn't witchcraft that explains how it works, and she doesn't want to because it would invite the devil. Yeah, oh my God, don't even get me started on that. Invite the devil in her home, but she's willing to dress up as a witch. But yeah, that's another word. I wish that she says. Well, I used to hear that too. Another thing I would like for my people specifically to let loose of is demonic. We need a new word. We need a new word because everything can't be demonic, y'all. We need a new word, real bad, real bad. Um, just because you don't know or you don't have answers, why does it? Why I always want to know why does it immediately jump to demonic? Why wouldn't it be? Why can't you see God in it? I meant to say since you look like a witch, got you though. I got you. um, why wouldn't you see your God? Why wouldn't you see that? It's weird. Like why? So if something seems different or unexplained, and it's especially if you see it in somebody else, not in you. If it's in you, it's of God. But if you see it in somebody else, especially somebody with money and celebrity status, it's not God given. It's demonic. Y'all don't notice that? It's only when another people, and the more money the person has, and the more celebrity status they have, it becomes demonic. The you know what? If you notice that, like if you are a budding artist and you're it was like God is gonna protect that. Like they see it. So when they win awards and their first awards and they're thanking God, like they a lot. Oh, that she, yeah, that's right. But the moment they get more successful, it turns from God to demonic. Now this auntie is pretty scientifically minded and grounded, but yet it makes no sense. It's not computing. Yeah, I got some people in my life. It's like they almost there, but they just won't take the plunge and go all the way in because their whole life, and these people are older than me, and I understand like much like my mom's age, so I get it because so much fear has been instilled. Like the term God fearing, that's a positive term. That's considered a positive term. You should fear. On the flip side, you'll be taught they're a loving God, and I don't. This is not even just about Christianity. I'm just talking about their deity because I believe they're deities, so there's not just the one. Um, they'll say in the same sense love. So I was like, does he have duality? Is he this Satan figure that y'all like to talk about, and your God? I think he tricked y'all, and he's both. I think he's like is he a Gemini? I think he's both. Why would a God create? Why would he allow an arch enemy? And if he allows it, if is it for interest, for fun, at your expense, at us mortals' expense? What would be the point of that? It'll all be revealed in the end. Um, I had gotten into a conversation with someone and they thought they were making a solid point, saying to me, well, okay, since you got all the answers, how come the gods that you follow, they allow bad things to happen? Why is that? And my whole point of this is I was like, the difference between the first of all, I don't follow a bunch of I don't even think I even work with any gods specifically. We'll say for my case, and I was like, you mean goddess? Um, I said, who's to say they don't interrupt and stop bad things from happening? You mean on a global scale? I said, see, that's the difference. That's the interpretation. In most cases, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, the way I view deities in general is this. I think they took it a bridge too far with the Christian God. can they influence our lives? Do they have the energy to do so? I think American Gods was onto something, at least in the beginning of how they kind of introduced the concept of gods, right, and deities. On what happens if we stop worshiping them? What happens if we stop revering and praying to them and calling on them and petitioning them? What would happen? That energy, because it's energy, right? It doesn't go away, but it's just stale. It's not there. It's stale, for lack of better words. I'm trying to think of a better word, but I can't. So the old gods, um, the ones that they called on. Yes, things still happen, by the way. In times, floods happen, droughts happen, famine occurred. We know that. There's this idea that that's not part of just living. I think as humans, we want order in a place of chaos. And having a god or goddess brings order to a lot of us. You know, it brings order to our mind, heart, our spirit. Um, so if we do all the steps, if we do all the things, or as close to those things, um, whether it's reading the Bible, for those, offerings and all that sort of stuff, if we do all these things enough, then we will have order. At some point, you have to accept, even as witches, there is chaos all around. We live in chaos. Everything around us is chaotic. We just don't see it. Our eyes, literal eyes, don't register the vibrations of everything around us. We see, you see a couch, you see a solid person, you see solid. But if we were to be able to zone in, obviously we have telescopes and things like that to do so, you would see that these things are moving. Nothing is still. The earth is rotating. Um, the atmosphere is moving. Nothing is still. Outer space is chaotic. Things are moving about. Um, Pieces of debris that are older than I can think of, that I can imagine, in my, so old, are just floating about and moving about. And could it hit this planet? Yes. Could it come into the atmosphere? Yes. It's more chaotic than we want to believe, because to think like that is terrifying. It's scary to think like that. So then we bring things down to our little worlds, our little lives, and if we could just believe that this, if I just pray, if I do this, somehow there will be order. I think more of us would get a little bit more, we call a lot of those people crazy, right? Who know that the world is chaotic. They can feel it, they see it. Some on more corners, hold signs screaming, so that's not helpful. Doesn't, help the cause. But they do know, you know, um, the people, I think, we see it in animals. Like, animals use all their senses, right? They're aware that they live a chaotic life. They are aware that it's never safe to always kind of be on alert. Because we are higher evolved, more intellectual beings, we've created this narrative amongst humans that, well, it doesn't have to be that way, and we have, psychology, and we have all these ways of studying ourselves, and to explain that paranoia is another, you shouldn't be, anxiety, you shouldn't have that. Let me tell you, lately I've been thinking, maybe I should be more anxious. Maybe we should all be a little bit more anxious. Maybe we should, because maybe that's a primal thing that's in most of us, because so many people now are more anxious. They're, are struggling just with life, because life is chaotic. We're seeing it in the fake world that we created with I say fake world because it's not real. Money is really not real. We assign it energy, so we made it real, right? So people are feeling less stable now, and they're reacting. They're more anxious, right? So we're getting a lot more prescriptions for medications to handle anxiety and things like that. And it's getting younger and younger, because the younger folk are aware of the potential instability of everything. Politicians constantly keep telling us that. When you're in schools, you have shootings. You're aware that things are not stable, that anything could go left at any moment. Um, it's not the same as living in fear, by the way. It's more, which is really tough because you can't really get rid of fear either, right? You can't get rid of fear. There's a reason we're built hardwired to have fear. It's to protect us. It's a primal thing. It's a problem if it stops you from living. So you have to balance your life where you're fearless at the right times and fearful at the other times. But at no point should you be fearful of the God that you serve, in my opinion. And I know that just I took y'all on a tangent all over the place, but this is like how my mind thinks. This is how I kind of process things. So I'm literally processing this out loud. I'm taking like snippets of conversations, consultations that I've had with people, and it's all coming to the surface right now. So I'm sharing. Sorry if I sound a little all over the place, but that's how it comes out. I want to catch up on these comments. Uh, Within the past year, I would say, of watching and reading things that mention our perspectives as witches, our outsiders from the church. Now I feel sorry for my aunt. Oh, it seems that she is blindfolded. And Olivia says, I've come to the conclusion that all religion had elements of paganism, witchcraft, valid, that the Abrahamic traditions are not willing to own up to, particularly Christianity and Islam. Oh boy, yeah, agreed. Black Sheep and Broomsticks podcast hostess is, I like that name. Black Sheep and Black Sheep and Broomsticks podcast hostesses Sarah and Izzy have a running theory that Yodobos, I hope I'm saying it right, is kind of like the real God, and is the God of authoritarianism, and such. They have an episode about it. Free will is not free if you have to pay for it. Oh, that's right. Oh, Olivia, yes, that's right. Free. How is it free will if I gotta pay? Oh, well, you have free will. Oh, okay. But if you don't believe, you're punished. Well, wait a minute. You just told me I have a choice. This week I just saw a TikTok of this young lady saying she was um a little young black woman. She said, so let me get this. She read something in the Bible. She read it, and I don't remember exactly how it reads, but it said something about don't believe in the other gods. I'm the one true God, or something like that. And she just looked up and said, so there are other gods. When I was that was when I was younger, that stood out to me, and I was thinking, y'all didn't just pick up on that because that's kind of a big deal. And it's interesting because everybody that in my family who was in the church would say, well, if it's not of God, it's of the devil. But I was like, but it says there's other gods. So are they devil gods? So the devil is a god? No, the devil's not a god. I was like, oh, okay. Honestly, I didn't learn. Now that I think about it, the concept of the devil, Satan being a fallen angel, until I was like an adult, and that's something I learned. But coming up as a child, nobody told me that. That wasn't explained at all. I think that's really interesting. So I didn't understand why they would have like where did it come from? And then the same young lady's TikTok, she made another video because I don't know if you're on TikTok, right? So let's say you listen to something, you scroll a couple more, they'll show you like the same creator again on the same topic. They're like, oh, you like this? We're gonna give you more. That's what the algorithm does for TikTok. So um, her other video was saying, so do she was like, I think God and Satan work together. And she said, I used to ask that in my, she said she asked that in her church, and it was like, no, why would God work with Satan? She was like, well, if you're bad, you go to hell, right? And that's where Satan is. So is he, what, that means they work together. So it's a program. It made sense to me. I don't know, I've been on one this week. And it all, you know what? I'll say this. This book really had me on something. I actually pulled out, and I wish I had it with me now, one of the books that I kept from when I homeschooled my, now high school level kids at this point. The book is called When We Ruled. That is part of the reason why I think Lucifer is cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Um, When We Ruled. I cannot remember the authors right now. Robin something. Um, but it's a real thick book, and it's like a history book. And it is a lot of like references and other and resources in there as well, or to tie in. It's not just somebody ranting about what it is. And I love it because they break out sections of basically When We Rule talks about pre-colonial Africa, and this matters because pre-colonial Africa, and it's different. Africa is a continent, so it's like it breaks it up to east, west, and so forth, North Africa. Um, you're not finding Christian-based ways or teachings or anything during that time. There was one, and they took an excerpt from someone who actually did some traveling during the time, and it had to be translated what this traveler wrote. Um, and they were saying how they went to this a place in Ghana, and the thing that they noticed that they were perplexed by is that, and it goes into the movie Woman King, how women were um, were seemed to be really important. However, the king there had multiple wives. Like he had like 100 wives. He had basically a situation of all these women. But they were all well taken care of. Um, Beautiful. He said they were all beautiful jewelry, beautiful women, all of them. Everybody was like a 10. And it does make you think about what's being taught today in modern time, not today, but in modern times, of this concept of one man, one woman relationships. Um, and if you notice, you're seeing people are starting to get more and more communities, not just black folk, white folk too, for non-religious reasons, which is important, get away from that concept and have multiple partners, whether it's an open lifestyle, the lifestyle swinging, so to speak, whether it's, and that's just more for the maybe friendship, maybe not, you might have, or poly situations as well, where there's more relationships involved as well. Not that there's not relationships swinging, but typically it's about sex. Um, but you're seeing more and more of that happening. Um, and that's not for everybody. I don't think any of that's for everybody. Just like I don't think monogamy is for everyone. But it's tough. I don't know. I'm saying all this to say, I think all this stuff is going to die out. The rise of witchcraft, paganism is happening. Unlike other trends, I don't think it's just all going to stop. I think it's awakened something in people's mind. And even if it doesn't look outwardly the same from when they first learned witchcraft and got into witchcraft, I think after a while it's gonna stick, and I think we're gonna see a major shift. Oh, what did you say? Oh, I missed. Let me get to your comment. Sophia brings light. I have not bought the book, but I don't think I will. It just hits too close to home. Yeah, don't buy this book. The Fallen Angel book series by J.R. Ward kind of alludes to Jesus and the devil being brother and sister, but in the book, they of course are not called by these names. Yeah, now that's a fun story. You just sparked something by saying that's a fun story of the entire time it was, it was really the same person, just two sides of the same person, and the world thought that would be a fun book if you really think about that, right? Um, and then let's say there's like a mortal who breaches the gates of heaven or the hell, and they realize they get to go to both. Because you think if you're immortal, you can't go to both. So that's an interesting story idea, and that's in my head. So like imagine so this mortal somehow gets to go to both. And the only way a mortal might be able to do this is that the books are really good too, but they really do make you think. That sounds like a good series. Uh, but so let's say they have a touch of divinity in them. They're part angel. I'm in my bag and I think about this. So like they're in touch with divinity. So that's the only way that this is possible. They have to be supernatural, right? And somehow they've breached the gates of hell and heaven in their lifetime, and they're the only somewhat mortal that knows the truth that the God and the devil are the same. They are not different. Um, and that they have to maybe defend themselves against this god slash devil entity, and they have to fight against this supernatural, all powerful being. I'm currently reading The Conformer Be Cast Out, Literal Demonization of Nonconformists, and oh my God, it's really good. Oh wow, that does sound interesting. Conform or be cast out. Yeah, I think you talked about this before, the demonization of nonconformists. Well, that sounds like an interesting book. And I think I might read something like that. And they are like, on this quest to save themselves and save humanity because they've been breached. The god slash devil, it's been breached. The gig is up, but they can't let this semi-mortal live. And maybe like, I don't know, the semi-mortal gets some help from like other angels. What if there were more? There's a bunch of fallen angels that never went back, and they've been here all this time, and they're pissed off with the whole thing. They took it too far. I would recommend everyone in the world to read the book. Yeah, and they took it too far. So then it's like this massive like war that's gonna break out, and who will win? Will the god slash devil win? Will the world continue to go on as we know, or will people learn the truth? And then what happens if they learn the truth? Obviously, people's grandmoms won't believe it. They'll call you. They'll say that's the devil in you trying to convince me otherwise. You have no way of truly proving it. So that's how you can have books like that. And like in this world, like wouldn't the whole world be freaking out? No, because they wouldn't believe you. No, they wouldn't believe you. Could be screaming that this happened. They wouldn't believe that one, you come from an angel. They're not gonna believe you. They're not gonna believe that you somehow breached heaven. Like, what you gonna do? Take a picture with your phone? They would say you faked it. You photoshopped it. I would build that in. What is that movie that Netflix did right after COVID? After COVID's still happening, but after the quarantine. I can't remember. What was it? Up or Falling? I forgot the name of the movie where an asteroid was coming to Earth, and everybody was just focused on everything else. Celebrity news gossip. Ariana Grande has an appearance in that movie, and the asteroid actually hits us, and like we would learn that our government just is inept, and the science that we think we can rely on is really just at the whim of like someone, the equivalent of like, it's like an Elon Musk character if you've ever seen this movie. um, and if you really pay attention to Elon Musk, people think he's got it all figured out. He's just so smart. No, he's just rich. You'd be surprised how you come across if you're rich. You can make an image however you want. I want to write and illustrate comic series with pagan magical characters, and I'm trying to come up with a villain. I immediately want want to have the villain to be Christianity, but I feel like that's low hanging fruit and predictable. Exactly, man. No, that's why you got to do that. Take a little bit of what I would say. You got to take this character who presents as good, um, but they're really not. They're really not. Maybe your villain is not just one. Maybe it's the twins. The god, maybe they're really twins, right? Maybe they're split. I don't know. I don't know. I might want to look more into that because I'm kind of feeling that story idea a little bit. I don't know if I would make it per se Christian God and devil, but maybe a story of like this godlike figure, and they've been lying this whole time. I don't know. That's more fantasy. Like create this fake world, not like our world, modern world. Like create like a fake world, and they've always been taught that this, and give them a different name or something, a different name of a god. That's the good god, and they would be protected. They prayed, and when bad things happen, they blame the bad god. But they're one and the same. Oh my god, I'm gonna wrap this up. I've wanted, just so you know, I've wanted more. I wanted to believe that this person. I continued to read this throughout the week, and I just didn't want to read anymore because it annoyed me. I was just getting put off by this book, and I just said to Mika, "This is Black History Month. Don't do this." A female team member finally has a villain, but I need a villain for the whole team. Oh, okay, I got you. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope everybody has a great Saturday. It's crazy in my place where I'm at still. I don't know exactly where you are in Arizona, but if you're going into Phoenix, I want to say Phoenix, Tempe, Scottsdale tonight. If you looking for an adventure, tonight's the night because everybody's out tonight. There's a lot of people in the Phoenix area right now. I was thinking about going out just to people watch, just to soak up the vibes. Have a great day. Oh, thank you. um, but don't forget to hit like before you go, and subscribe if you haven't. Consider join the Lead Taken membership, and of course check out leadtaken.com for my services. I'll be updating soon with some new openings because I'll be ready to go to open up for some new consultations for mentorship programs. All right, I'm out of here. Bye.